Welcome back in for another episode of Palmetto Playbook. I'm your host, Alan Marcus Harder. I'm the 5 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. producer here at WMBF News.
My name is TJ Turner. I'm a digital content producer here at WMBF, and we're going to get into the game of the week this week.
I know TJ's been holding off all season. We'll let him take over on this one.
I've been waiting for this one. Preseason, I had this one marked on my calendar as the game of the year potentially. I thought both these teams were going to be potentially undefeated or one-loss teams coming into this game. Alabama coming into Williams-Brice this week, huge game. We thought playoff implications, SEC championship implications coming into the year. Obviously, South Carolina's season didn't get off to the start that we thought they would, but it still ended up being a great game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, given all the struggles that South Carolina had coming into this season, I'm surprised it was honestly as close as it was. I think South Carolina fans probably could attest to that too. But like you mentioned before, just how much, even last year's game, how much impact that one had. Because if at the end of the season, both South Carolina and Alabama were fighting for that last spot in the playoffs. But this one was out of all the struggles that Carolina have had this season, South Carolina actually had some positive signs for this one.
Yeah, I think they played great. I think this was definitely the best offensive game for South Carolina all season by far. I think their defense played well. Their defense and offense both played well enough to win. There's just a couple of key crucial mistakes in turnovers. You have the interception that was just shown where I believe it was Faison bobbled the ball straight to the Alabama defender who brought it back for a touchdown. And then there was a key fumble that essentially lost them the game with under a minute left.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the reasons why the offense actually played pretty well for this game was they switched to they let Lenore Sellers move outside the pocket. They utilized his running game a lot more, I think, than they have the rest of the season. It seemed like more of the play calling was move the pocket around, let him extend plays when he as he wants to, not as out of a necessity when the pocket breaks down. I think they leaned heavily into that, and I think it worked out for the most part.
And then when Alabama brought a couple of blitzes at him, especially with how this offensive line has played so far, they didn't necessarily hold up to all the blitzes, but Sellers was usually able to shred off that free rusher whenever he could and get out of the pocket and make plays, which we've seen from him his whole career. That's just what he does. You just expect that from him at this point. I saw the announcers during the game. I believe they had 25 sacks coming into the game, and they were talking about how if Lenore Sellers wasn't the quarterback back there, that it'd be close to 50.
I could see that, yeah. But yeah, his elusiveness, I still don't know how to do it. Watching it week in and week out, it's like he makes a play every game that you're just like, how? Because it's insane to watch him play.
And then Clemson and Coastal Carolina this week were both off, so we don't have any big news across the state this week. But sticking with the SEC, Vanderbilt got a big win this week over Missouri, and that puts Vanderbilt at inside the top 10. They were ranked number 10 coming into this game. Mizzou ranked 15. Following this game, they jumped up inside the top 10, which I don't know how many years it's been since Vanderbilt was within the top 10, but I have
much
a feeling
less ranked at that point.
I have a feeling none of us two were born but when the last time Vanderbilt was ranked in the top 10 this early into the season. But Vanderbilt's off to a great start, 7-1 on the year after this big win.
Yeah, they're just the Cinderella story of the Cinderella stories. I mean, they have had a great start. Not even just the start of the season they've had since then. I mean, now you're in the stretch when you're 8-9 games into the season. It's just insane that they're able to keep this up.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to. I expected them to win probably 7 games come the end of the year. I didn't think coming into week 8, 9 here, sitting at 7-1, ranked number 9 in the nation. It's just crazy to see from a Vanderbilt team that we say it every week that nobody expected to be here a few years ago.
Probably, except I'd say for Vanderbilt, their mindset is that they expected to be here. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the rest of the country, but they're definitely playing with the confidence to go out there and win week in and week out. And when you're fighting that SEC schedule, that's definitely something that you need on your side.
Yeah, if you asked Diego Pavia before the season, he'd probably hand himself the Heisman Trophy at this point.
Yeah,
He was about to last week. He was
yeah.
putting on the Heisman celebrations there after a couple of his touchdowns. He had another great game this week, and he just continues to impress everybody. And I don't even know if he's impressing people at this point or if it's just come to what we come to expect from Diego Pavia at this point in his career.
Yeah, he's definitely doing all the right things.
And then moving on, Georgia Tech, moving from the SEC to the ACC. Georgia Tech remains undefeated on the year, keeping them the only ACC team to be undefeated up until this point, which I don't know if anybody would have picked Georgia Tech to be the last undefeated team in the ACC coming into this year, but there they are sitting at 8-0.
Yeah, they're another one of those Cinderella teams. They've definitely played well. Yeah, when you think about the ACC teams, with the way Florida State started the season, or just how Miami, how loaded they are, you'd figured they'd be in contention. Which I mean, I guess Miami still is. They've only had one loss, but Georgia Tech is another surprise story, and it's also one of those programs that hasn't seen success in football in a while. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's always nice to see that.
Yeah, and they've got Haynes King, who we talked about Diego Pavia as the Heisman candidate for the other team that's the Cinderella team this year, but Haynes King's been up there as well. He had almost 400 all-purpose yards in this game, 5 total touchdowns, and that seems to be what we expect from him every week coming in for Georgia Tech, especially in this 8-0 season so far. They've been riding his back the whole year, and if they're going to go as far as Haynes King will take them, as long as Haynes King can keep putting on performances like this, I don't see them losing anytime soon, especially with the schedule that they've got in the ACC.
I think they have some good games coming up. Obviously, you'll have that rivalry matchup with Georgia at the end of the season, but even if they with a one loss on their record, that's not going to hold them back when 12 teams are getting into the playoffs. But I think, as like you said, as far as Haynes King can take him, and right now he's taking them pretty far. I think they'll be keep driving for foreseeable future right now.
Yeah, I think until that rivalry game in Atlanta, I think you're not going to see another even rough game for Georgia Tech up until then. I think we'll see those teams matching up at. I think Georgia Tech will come into that game with 0 losses, and Georgia will probably come into that game with 1 loss. And then I think both teams will make the playoff regardless of the outcome in that game.
For sure.
And then moving on to the NFL, the undefeated streak at home is done for the Panthers, but the unwinning streak.
Yeah, the first
Jets,
win of the season.
Yeah, the Jets got their first win of the season this week in a shootout too, which you wouldn't expect from what we've seen so far for the Jets this year. They put up 39 points in this game, beating the Bengals 39-38 on the back of Breece Hall, who had 133 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in this game, and he actually threw for a touchdown in this game as well for his 3rd touchdown.
Jets are, like we said last week when the Panthers played them, they've had a lot of struggles this season. I think they even had some quarterback changes throughout the week with injuries and Justin Fields coming back and being healthy again. But yeah, I mean, a good win for them and a much needed one. Unless you're a Jets fan or trying to fight for that number 1 overall draft pick or something like that.
I don't think anybody's...
It might be too early in the season for all that talk just yet.
I don't think anybody's stealing that number 1 pick from the Jets.
Yeah, but it was good to see them.
It's good to see them get their first win. And then the Panthers got their first loss at home this week against the Bills. We knew this was going to be an uphill battle coming into this game, but we didn't exactly see the score being this lopsided at the end. At least I didn't. I thought they would at least keep it a little close. But 40-9 is definitely not a score you want to see on that scoreboard as a Carolina Panthers fan.
No, not especially just a few weeks ago when the Falcons, I think, defeated Buffalo. I don't know if that game was in Atlanta or up in New York. But I think the Panthers could have had some confidence coming into this one just because the Falcons were able to beat the Bills and the Panthers blew out the Falcons earlier in the season. But yeah, immediately this game got off on the wrong foot for the Panthers. I know Andy Dalton struggled a lot. James Cook having a really great game for Buffalo. I believe this could have been like a homecoming of sorts for him. I believe he's the running back that he's from Scotland County, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of a homecoming for him, I believe, having 216 yards and 2 total touchdowns, doing absolutely everything, whatever he wanted on that field.
He almost had as many yards as the Carolina Panthers offense this week, as they ended the game with only 244 yards of total offense, not even 30 yards more than what James Cook had himself rushing.
Yeah.
But the Panthers move on to 4-4 on the year, which I don't think any Panthers fan is going to be mad at a 4-4 start to this season, given the expectations coming into the year.
Yeah, I mean, they have a tough stretch coming up soon. We'll get into that later. But, I mean, 4-4 for the Panthers, given the lack of excitement around this team, I guess, coming into this season, just to be at 500 right now. I mean, it could be a whole lot worse. I mean, you can't really – obviously, you'd hope some of these games could have gone the Panthers' ways, but it's better than, I guess, the expectations coming into this season.
They've definitely exceeded expectations. You've got your Omaha hat from the from the College World Series.
Yeah.
And we've got the MLB World Series underway here. We are and Game 3 just happened last night as we're recording this.
Or I guess technically this morning, depending on what time that game ended.
Yeah, I believe it went well into the morning. And 18 innings in Game 3, and it was ended by a walk-off home run for the Dodgers to go up 2-1 in the series. It was tied 1-1 after the first two games, and they've been scoring a lot of runs in these first two games. The Toronto, had 11 runs in the first game, winning that one, and then the second game was a close one-score game, and then this game, obviously going to 18 innings, was close the whole way.
Yeah, I mean, you like to see competitive games, and that's so far what we've seen so far. I know for that Game 1, it was back and forth. I believe it was like 2-2, and then all of a sudden Toronto scored like 9 runs in that 6th or 7th inning in Game 1. Game 2, I believe the Dodgers commanded that game really well. I think was it Yamamoto had the complete game.
I believe so. I believe it was 5-2.
Yeah, something like that. I know because like I remember the broadcast. They were saying that the Dodgers bullpen's not the. They've had their struggles, but thankfully, I guess in Game 2 that they didn't have to rely on that. Their starter went. Game 3, I mean, Shohei Ohtani. I don't know how much he's putting on a really good performance day in and day out. He had 2 home runs in Game 3. I mean, Toronto had they've done really well too, but it's just crazy to see the things he's doing. And of course, like Freddie Freeman, the former Atlanta Brave, former Myrtle Beach Pelican, hitting the home run to walk it off for the Dodgers. But I like that these games are really close. It could go either way.
Yeah, the 18 innings is a long time to play, but it's good to see these games, especially being the World Series. You want to have a good series, and hopefully it can go in deep 6-7 games. Obviously, we'll get a Game 5 because it's 2-1 right now. And I saw they were joking with Shohei Ohtani today after the game because technically it was this morning, and he has to start again tonight, Tuesday night, as the starting pitcher tonight. So he's playing technically 2 games in one day in 24 hours for him. But with what we've seen him put on performances, batting, pitching, I don't think it's going to be any sort of tall task for him.
He's definitely delivered this postseason.
Yeah, and just the athlete that he is, being able to do just about everything on a baseball field, you expect nothing short of his best, even coming off of this 18-inning game where I believe he hit the whole game.
I think so.
Yeah, I believe he was a starter.
Well, they may have like walked him later on in the game. Mm-hmm. I think I saw some people talking about that, which, I mean, that's probably smart on Toronto's part. I wouldn't want to pitch to him right now with how well he's done this postseason.
I think he had like a 10 strikeout game and 3 home run game earlier on in these playoffs. You definitely want to keep the ball away from him. And then moving across the Carolinas in our other sports, we've got the Carolina Hurricanes are off to a hot start this season, which was to be expected before the season started. They're 6-2 through the first 8 games of the year, currently sitting 3rd in their division.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said last week and the week before, I mean, it's just good for, well, obviously when you have all these high expectations to actually like live up to them, which, I mean, there's still a lot left to play, but with the 6-2 record, there's not much you can complain about with that.
Yeah, good start to the season for them. I know everybody was talking coming into the season about them being potentially candidates for the Cup at the end of the year. Last year, they went deep into the playoffs in the conference finals run, and I think they're gearing up for another run deep into the playoffs this season.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good to see. I know they've reached the postseason quite a few times in the past couple of years, but they just haven't got over the hump. And maybe this is the year for the Hurricanes, and we'll just have to see.
Yeah, then moving on to a team in the Carolinas with no expectations this season. The Charlotte Hornets have kicked off their season. They're 2-1 on the season, and LaMelo Ball has definitely been the driving force of that team. Obviously, been the driving force since he's been drafted, and he had a huge night on Sunday this weekend, dropping 38, 13, and 13. Triple doubles are just what we come to expect from him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have someone to carry the team. I know he's still pretty young, but he's handled it well so far. Having like you said, the hot start in that game Sunday. I know for their first game of the season, they defeated the Brooklyn Nets. I think Brandon Miller had a pretty good game in that one. I think like 20 plus points. I think he might have a little injury right now. I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, they've shown potential.
Yeah, they've definitely got a lot of young pieces on that team, and I think if they can live up to the expectations that those young guys have, not necessarily the team, but if you can see Brandon Miller come into form after being only in the league for the short while he has been, and then Con Knipple coming in, rookie, can see what he can give us on the offensive end. Obviously, a great shooter coming out of Duke, I believe.
Yeah.
Was it Duke or Kentucky? I always end up getting them mixed up. I believe it was
There's
Duke.
two Duke players, I think, that the Hornets got in the draft. Can't remember the other guy's name, but
yeah, I know Knipple's definitely, he's been getting minutes so far. I don't think they've given any of the other rookie any minutes yet to start the season, but I know Con Knipple's been getting a lot of minutes, and they're going to expect him to give them some shooting coming in, especially coming off the ball with LaMelo Ball being as ball dominant as he is. And then just the other guys on the team being so young, you just want to see them come into form and just continue to develop.
Yeah, I mean, they'll definitely be an exciting project to follow for the rest or even just the rest of the season and beyond.
And then Charlotte FC, they are opening up the playoffs today as we're recording this. The game will be over by the time you guys get to watch it, but they're kicking off the playoffs at home against New York City. And so we'll be interested. We'll be following along on their playoff run. They had a great season. I want to say they finished in the top 5 in their side.
I believe they were the 4th seed because there's technically like 2 teams in New York. You have the Red Bulls, and then they're playing New York City FC. I think they're the 5th seed. But I know Charlotte. There was a period of time where they like in the middle of the season they were on a really hot stretch, not losing any games. They have this first game at home. It's like a best of 3 series where, like normally when you think of like multi-game series in soccer, you think of like the aggregate and how that works. But I know MLS, it's now like best of 3. So like kind of like how it works in baseball and basketball, where you're not keeping score from game to game.
Yeah, it's just based off wins. First to 2 wins in those series, and then looking ahead to next week. The slate is full for the South Carolina teams this week, and Clemson is hosting Duke, which is another winnable game for Clemson. I think every game through the end of the year, besides that game against South Carolina, which should get interesting, will be winnable for Clemson. I think this is a game you expect Clemson to win, and a game that they need to win to even stay in the running for a bowl game at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Duke has done. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like Duke has surprised some people this season. I think they've done better than people have expected. So it could be. I mean, granted, with what we've seen so far with Clemson, anytime they play a team that has a pulse that they've struggled with. So I mean, this could be another tricky game. Being at home for Clemson helps them a lot. I mean, they had a lot of success going into the bye week. So I mean, having the extra time to work around. Maybe Cade Klubnik is healthy coming back with the break. I know that Clemson, their offense has looked better than it has at the beginning of the season. They're finding their stride, but there's not much time left, and I don't know how much hope that they have to turn things around.
Yeah, they were definitely finding their stride leading into this bye week. And then coming off the bye week, the game before the bye week, we saw the backup quarterback, Christopher Vezina, came in, played well. It didn't even seem like they lost a beat going from Cade Klubnik over to Christopher Vezina. And then hopefully this week, Cade Klubnik will be healthy. And I think as you were saying, this Duke team isn't the Duke teams that we've seen in the past, where they just kind of roll over in these ACC matchups. I think we're going to see potentially a good game. I could see Clemson running away with this one, but as Clemson's shown all year, they've had trouble running away from teams that even when they are expected to win.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is also, I keep saying, I always thought their defense was a lot better than what they've been showing so far. If it becomes a shootout, who knows what's going to happen.
And then we've got a big Sun Belt matchup this week for Coastal Carolina, as they're gonna host Marshall this week, and this game is gonna decide who takes that second spot behind JMU on their side of the conference.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me like 3 weeks ago what it looked like for Coastal football for the rest of the season, I don't know if we'd be having this conversation right now. But they've definitely turned things around. They got Samari Collier under center. I would assume he's going to be the starter moving forward. I don't see why you wouldn't change him. And how things after that App State game going into the bye week, there's a lot of momentum. I know this is a special game. It's a Thursday night kickoff for Coastal here at Brooks Stadium. It's a nationally televised, I believe, like ESPN2. It seems like they have a bunch of stuff planned for Coastal. I know they're even got a Medieval Times halftime show. So it seems like Coastal's going to do a lot of exciting things to make this game stand out for like even the fan experience, or maybe even what's going on the TV. I'm not sure, but based on how they're hyping it on social media, there's a lot planned, and hopefully the team delivers.
Yeah, hopefully the product on the field lives up to the Medieval Times halftime show, and we can see just as many fireworks on the field as we do in the many things we've got going around that stadium, as they've been doing a great job at getting the stadium not only just with renovations, and they added some new seating, but pyrotechnics and all the different halftime shows and different things they've got going on around that stadium has been great to see all season.
Yeah, I know. For speaking about the game, I know Marshall can put up some points, and Coastal's defense, they were in a shootout with App State, so I get the defenses. We'll have to see how they handle that, and if it becomes another shootout, we'll see if the offense can step up, because there have been some question marks at least earlier in the season. Maybe they figured that out. I feel like it could literally go either way, which, I mean, that's probably the easy thing to say. But, yeah.
I think this one's going to be a good game. And then South Carolina, after that huge game against Alabama, their season doesn't get any easier moving forward. They've got this gauntlet to end the year, especially reeling after those first few games to start the season. They're going to be going against Ole Miss at Ole Miss, number 7 team in the country. And I would have told you 2 weeks ago that this game might be a 40-point game. But after that performance that they put on against Alabama, I could see them potentially being on upset alert and potentially giving themselves a chance in this one.
I wish I could say that, but if followed South Carolina football long enough, you know, if they excite you one week, it's usually followed up by a less than stellar performance the following week. And they didn't even win the Alabama game. I mean, I hope they done it. I mean, the offensive line have done better. They've changed things around. They gave up less sacks, less penalties. Lenore Sellers, they were able to move him around. But I know last year that game could have been. You thought going into the South Carolina Ole Miss game at home, you thought it could be a lot closer, and then Ole Miss just absolutely blew South Carolina out of the water. Lane Kiffin knows how to run that offense, coach that offense. Ole Miss will be a very tough opponent for South Carolina, obviously, with the number 7 team in the country. But, it's going to be I don't see South Carolina getting past Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss is coming off a tough week as well. They came off one-score game just like South Carolina is. They played Oklahoma, and I want to say they won by 8 points.
I believe they had a well enough lead, but I think they let Oklahoma back into the game and almost blew it. But Ole Miss was able to take care. They had enough of a lead to not go down.
And then the Carolina Panthers have a tough road test as well this week. They're going into Lambeau Field to play the Packers, which Lambeau Field, especially getting into this time of year, Lambeau Field just gets tougher and tougher to play at the later into the season, especially for a team from down in the South like Carolina. I know it's not necessarily too warm here now, but in at Green Bay, you can see temperatures dip into the single digits at times. I don't know about yet, but we'll probably see this game.
We're still in October right now.
I think this game will be definitely colder than the Panthers are used to at practice, but I don't know if that's going to play too much of a role in this game yet. It could be a little colder than they're used to, and it's also just a tough place to play with all the history in that stadium up in Green Bay at Lambeau Field, especially playing against the Packers with their pass rush. I think it's going to be a tough game, and we're still not sure, I believe, if Bryce Young is going to be good to go this week or not.
Sure.
I don't think they've released that information yet. We're hoping that he can go because Andy Dalton last week definitely struggled in that offense, and it was definitely not a good showing for the Panthers last week. But this week, hopefully they could turn things around. This Packers team has been good all year. I believe they're 5-1-1 on the season now. Panthers sitting at 4-4, so they're not too far apart on record so far this season. And if the Panthers play their best, they've shown they can stick around with anybody. So it should be an interesting game.
Yeah, I think they're going to need their defense to step. It will benefit the Panthers if it's a low-scoring game. I don't know how much the offense, especially with the still question marks around the quarterback availability. I know the Packers are coming into this one really strong. I know Jordan Love had a really good game against I believe it was the Steelers because I remember seeing them.
Yep. Rodgers.
The statistic they were a statistic where like Jordan Love had completed 20 straight completions in that game, and they said it was the first time that's happened for the Packers since the Brett Favre days when they're literally playing Aaron Rodgers, who obviously his long history with the Packers on the other side of the field with the Steelers.
They're saying that game was the passing of the torch from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. As a lifelong Packers fan, I have definitely been spoiled with quarterback play my entire life, going from Brett Favre, and then he passed it along to Aaron Rodgers, and now Aaron Rodgers passing it along to Jordan Love. All three of them have been great. We've won a lot of games with those three quarterbacks back there, and Jordan Love doesn't seem to be any worse than the other two were coming into the Packers and getting that starting job. And especially with that performance he put on against Rodgers this past week, I think the Packers are definitely gearing up for another long run of great quarterback play from Jordan Love. So we'll be interested to see how this game shakes up in Lambeau Field this week against the Panthers.